If you are a woman over the age of 60 living in the UK, I need you to stop scrolling right now because there is a very real chance that the Department for Work and Pensions owes you money. Not a small amount either. We're talking potentially thousands of pounds. In some cases, more than £8,000 sitting unclaimed because of errors made by the DWP that went unnoticed for decades. And here's the part that should make your blood run cold. The DWP isn't going to knock on your door. They aren't going to send you a letter explaining what they owe you and asking where to send the check. In many cases, you have to go and find the money yourself. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. This doesn't apply to me. But stay with me, because even if you're not a woman, even if you've never thought about your pension in your life, the information in this video could affect you, your mom, your nan, your aunt, your sister, or a friend who has no idea this is happening. And here's the question I want you sitting with for the next few minutes. What if you or someone you love is receiving less state pension than the law says they're entitled to? What would you do about it? Let's put this into perspective. The DWP has confirmed that since January 2021, it has paid back over £804 million to more than 130,000 pensioners who were being underpaid their state pension. 130,000 people. Over £800 million. These weren't people who had done anything wrong. They weren't fraudsters. They were ordinary men and women who had paid into the system their entire working lives, and the system had quietly been shortchanging them, sometimes for years. The average back payment? Over £2,000 per person in the main underpayment exercise, and in the separate home responsibilities protection correction, which affects parents and carers. The average back payment is nearly £8,400. That is money that people worked for, money they were legally entitled to, money that was just sitting there, unclaimed. And as of right now, experts believe there are still people out there who haven't been contacted, people who are still being underpaid, people who are owed money and don't know it. If this turns out to be you or someone close to you and you don't act, that money stays with the government. That's what's at stake. Before we go any further, if you find this kind of information useful, please hit the subscribe button. We cover DWP updates, state pension changes, HMRC news, and retirement planning every week in plain English. No jargon, no waffle, just the stuff you actually need to know. Hit subscribe and make sure you've got notifications turned on so you never miss an update. Right, let's get into it. To understand why this is happening, we need to go back a little way. For decades, the way women's state pensions were calculated was complicated. A lot of women, particularly those who were married, widowed, or had taken time out of work to care for children or elderly relatives, were entitled to have their pension topped up based on their husband's national insurance record. But here's the thing, that top-up didn't always happen automatically. And when it didn't, nobody told them. In some cases, women were supposed to have their pension increased when their husband reached state pension age. In others, the uplift was meant to kick in when they themselves turned 80. For widows, there was often an entitlement to a higher rate following their husband's death. These are not complicated rules. They are written in law. But due to a combination of outdated computer systems and administrative failures, the DWP didn't apply them correctly. Thousands of women fell through the cracks. The problem only came to light in 2020, when pensions consultancy Lane Clark and Peacock, known as LCP, flagged it publicly. The DWP was forced to act. They launched what they called the LEAP exercise, which stands for Legal Entitlements and Administrative Practice, and began the enormous task of tracking down every affected person and paying them back. But that's not the only underpayment problem. There is a second, separate issue, and this one affects parents and carers. Before the year 2000, if you claimed child benefit, you were entitled to something called Home Responsibilities Protection, or HRP. This was a scheme that protected your state pension entitlement during years when you were at home raising children or caring for someone rather than working and paying national insurance. The problem? Many child benefit claim forms submitted before May 2000 didn't include a national insurance number. That meant the HRP credit never made it onto the person's national insurance record. And so when their pension was calculated, those years of caring were simply ignored. HMRC has now sent out over 370,000 letters to people who may have been affected. But as of the latest figures, thousands of eligible people still haven't responded or don't know they're affected at all. But that's not the biggest issue. Stay with me, because we're about to get to what this means for your pension right now. Who is most at risk of being underpaid? Let's be very specific about who we're talking about, because while this affects a broad group, there are 4 categories of people who are most likely to have been underpaid. The first group, married women who reached state pension age before April 2016. If you retired before the new state pension system came in, and you were receiving a pension based on your husband's national insurance record, your payments may never have been correctly calculated. The DWP was supposed to increase your pension when your husband retired. For many women, that simply never happened. The practical consequence? Some women have been receiving a pension that is hundreds of pounds a year too low, for years on end. If that's the case, you are owed all of that money back in one lump sum. What should you do? Contact the pension service directly. You can do this online at gov.uk, by phone or by post. Ask them to review your pension calculation and check whether you're entitled to any uplift based on your husband's record. The second group, widows. If your husband has passed away, you may be entitled to a higher rate of state pension than you were receiving before his death. In many cases, surviving spouses are entitled to inherit a portion of their husband's state pension entitlement. But again, this didn't always happen automatically. The DWP's own figures show that over 50,000 of the 130,000 people who've already received back payments were widows or widowers. That is a staggering number, and experts believe there are still widows out there who haven't been contacted. Here's what most people don't realize. If your husband died before you reached state pension age and his pension was higher than yours, you may be owed significant arrears going back years. The third group, women aged 80 or over. This one catches people off guard. If you are 80 or older and have little or no qualifying national insurance record, you are entitled to a minimum basic state pension, regardless. This is called the Category D pension, but not everyone has been receiving it. If you have a relative over $80, a parent, an aunt, a neighbor, it is worth checking whether they are receiving their full entitlement. This is especially true if they have lived alone for a long time and have never had reason to question their pension amount. The fourth group, parents and carers who claimed child benefit before May 2000. This is the home responsibilities protection issue we mentioned earlier. If you stayed at home to raise children or care for a relative at any point between 1978 and 2010, and you claimed child benefit before May 2000, your NI record may be missing years that should be there. The average back payment in this exercise is £8,377. That is a life-changing sum for many people. To check whether you're affected, you can use the eligibility checker on the HMRC website, or apply to have missing HRP added to your record using Form CF411. This can be done online or by post, and importantly, people under state pension age can also apply. If you're not yet retired, getting this sorted now could increase your eventual pension entitlement permanently. Stay with me, because the next section explains exactly why so many people still haven't claimed what they're owed, the April 2026 state pension rise, and why it matters for underpayments. Now, there's another piece of news that we need to talk about, because it's directly relevant to everything we've just covered. In April 2026, the state pension rose by 4.8%. That means the full new state pension, the one that applies to anyone who reached state pension age on or after April 2016, is now £241.30 per week. That's £12,548 per year. And the basic state pension, the older system, has gone up to £184.90 per week. That 4.8% rise is because of something called the triple lock. This is a government guarantee that the state pension rises every year by whichever is highest: inflation, average wage growth, or 2.5%. This year, it was wage growth that won at 4.8%. Now, here's why this matters in the context of underpayments. If you have been underpaid your state pension for any number of years, and those years include periods when the pension was rising, the amount owed to you should reflect those uprated figures too. You're not just owed the base amount, you're owed the correct amount as it should have been calculated year on year with all the upratings applied. This is why some back payments are as large as they are, because the errors compound over time. If you are currently receiving the wrong amount of state pension and the 4.8% rise has just been applied to the wrong figure, you are now receiving an even more incorrect amount than before. Every week that passes, the gap between what you're being paid and what you're owed is quietly growing. This is where many people get caught. They assume that because their pension has gone up in April, everything must be right. It might not be. The DWP can apply the annual rise perfectly well to a pension that was never correctly calculated in the first place. So the April increase is good news. But it does not mean your pension is correct. These are two completely separate issues. What about the state pension age changes? While we're here, it's worth covering the state pension age situation because this is causing confusion for a lot of people. The state pension age is currently 66 for both men and women. That hasn't changed. But between 2026 and 2028, the state pension age is going to rise to 67. This will affect people born on or after April 6, 1960. And from 2044, it's set to rise again to 68, affecting those born after April 1977. The practical consequence here is this. If you are in your mid to late 50s, you need to build a very clear picture of your state pension position right now, not when you're 65 and think you can retire. Because depending on when you were born, the finish line has moved. And if your NI record has gaps, it may not be too late to fill them. You can still buy back missing national insurance years to boost your eventual state pension. The deadline for buying back years going all the way back to 2006 has been a major topic in recent months. If you've already missed that boat on some years, focus on what's still available. The gov.uk Check Your State Pension Forecast tool will show you exactly where you stand. The next change affects even more people, and it's one of the least understood rules in the entire pension system. The rules around inheriting state pension. What no one tells you. If your spouse or civil partner has died, you may be able to inherit some or all of their state pension. But the rules are complicated, and they depend on when they died and which pension system they were in. Under the old basic state pension system, if your late husband had a higher additional state pension, what used to be called SERPs, you may be entitled to inherit up to 50% of that. Again, this is something the DWP was supposed to handle automatically. In many cases, it didn't. Under the new state pension, the situation is different. If your spouse reached state pension age after April 2016, you may be able to inherit a portion of any protected payment they built up. Your own state pension is not affected, but if there were top-ups, you may have a claim. The key message here is this. If you are widowed and you have never specifically asked the DWP to review your pension following your husband's death, ask now, even if it happened years ago. The DWP can still investigate and pay arrears. Let me tell you about a woman I'll call Margaret. Margaret is 74. She lives in the East Midlands, and she retired at 63, not long after her husband Alan. Alan was a few years older, and when he retired, she assumed her pension would sort itself out. She'd always trusted the system. She'd worked, she'd paid her national insurance, she'd never claimed a thing she wasn't entitled to. For 11 years, she received her state pension every 4 weeks without question. Last year, Margaret's daughter came across a news article about the DWP underpayments. She persuaded her mum to ring the pension service, mostly just to put her mind at rest. It wasn't. The DWP discovered that when Alan had reached state pension age, Margaret's pension should have been increased to 60% of the basic state pension based on his NI record. That uplift had never been applied for 11 years. Margaret received a lump sum payment of just over £6,200. She cried when I heard about it. Not because she was rich now, it was life-changing but not life-making. She cried because of what she said next. I didn't know I had to ask. That is the lesson. You have to ask. The DWP is not going to volunteer this information. You have to know your rights, check your records, and make the call. Margaret is one of over 130,000 people who have already received back payments. There are still people out there in exactly her situation who haven't made that call yet. Don't be the person who waits another 11 years. Right, let's make this actionable. Here is your 5-step plan. Step 1. Check your current state pension amount. Log into your personal tax account on gov.uk or look at your most recent letter from the Pension Service. Write down the exact weekly figure you're currently receiving. The full new state pension is £241.30 per week. The full basic state pension is £184.90 per week. If you are getting less than this, there may be a reason or there may be an error. Step 2. Check your national insurance record. Again, you can do this at gov.uk through your personal tax account. Look for gaps in your NI record. If you were caring for children or a relative during any of those gap years, those years may be missing the HRP credit that you're entitled to. Step 3. If you're widowed, contact the Pension Service directly. Ask them to specifically review whether you are entitled to any uplift from your late husband's or wife's pension record. Give them the date of death and your national insurance number. Ask them to confirm in writing what they have and haven't applied. Step 4. If you think you have missing HRP, contact HMRC. You can check your eligibility and apply using Form CF411, available on gov.uk. You can do this online or by post. Even if you are not yet at state pension age, this is worth doing now. It will affect your future entitlement. Step 5. If a relative has died and may have been underpaid, you can still claim on their behalf. Next of kin or executors can contact the DWP to request a review. You will need a death certificate and proof of your relationship to the deceased. Any arrears that are identified can be paid to the estate. That's it. 5 steps. You don't need a financial advisor. You don't need a lawyer. You just need to pick up the phone or go to gov.uk and ask the question. So why haven't more people done this already? I think there are 3 reasons. The first is trust. A lot of older people, particularly those who grew up in the post-war era, were raised to believe that the government gets things right, that the system is fair, that if you were owed money, they'd tell you. It's a deeply held belief, and it makes it very hard to accept that the system has failed you. The second is confusion. The rules around state pension inheritance, HRP, spousal uplifts, and national insurance records are genuinely complicated. Most people don't understand them. And when you don't understand something, the easiest thing to do is assume someone else has handled it correctly. The third is inertia. Even when people find out they might be affected, many put it off. I'll do it next week. Next week becomes next month becomes next year. And all the while, the pension that should be going into their account isn't. Here's the mindset shift I'd encourage. Stop thinking about this as challenging the government. Think about it as checking your payslip. If your employer was paying you short every month, you'd notice, you'd query it, you'd get it sorted. Your state pension is your payslip. Check it. Query it if it doesn't look right. It's your money and you are absolutely entitled to it. Let's bring this together quickly. What changed? The DWP has confirmed that over 130,000 pensioners were underpaid their state pension due to administrative failures going back decades. A separate exercise on home responsibilities protection has identified more than 12,000 additional underpayments with an average back payment of over £8,000. The exercises are ongoing. Who is affected? Primarily married women who retired before 2016, widows and widowers, people aged over 80, and anyone who claimed child benefit before May 2000 while staying at home as a carer. What has changed in 2026? The state pension rose by 4.8% in April 2026. The full new state pension is now £241.30 per week. But this rise means nothing if your base figure was already wrong. What do you need to do? Check your state pension amount. Check your NI record. If you're widowed, contact the Pension Service. If you're a parent or carer, check your eligibility for HRP through HMRC. If you have a deceased relative who may have been underpaid, contact the DWP on their behalf. Why does timing matter? Because every week you delay is another week of underpayment. And for people who have already been waiting years, another week is another week too long. Here's what I keep coming back to when I think about stories like Margaret's. These are people who did everything right. They worked, they paid their taxes, they cared for their children and their relatives. They contributed to this country for decades. And then they trusted a system to honor that contribution, and the system let them down. The DWP didn't do this out of malice. It was administrative failure, outdated systems. processes that didn't keep up with people's lives. But the result is the same. Over £1 billion of pension payments either unpaid or paid too late. And the response to that cannot be to shrug and move on. You don't need to be angry. You don't need to be overwhelmed. You just need a plan. Check what you're owed. Make the call. Ask the question. Because the biggest mistake isn't not knowing. It's knowing and waiting too long to act. If this video has been useful to you, please hit the like button. It genuinely helps more people find this information who need it. And if you know someone who might be affected, a parent, a grandparent, an aunt or uncle, a friend who's recently lost their spouse, please share this with them. You might be sending them a link worth thousands of pounds. Subscribe if you haven't already, and leave me a comment below. Have you already claimed back payments from the DWP? Are you looking into it for the first time? Let me know. I read every comment, and your experience could help someone else. I'll see you in the next one.